This conference will now be recorded.
So it's official. Welcome. And Rick's gone. Well, this is okay. Again, once the parents are away, the kids will play. So really, I mean, what's going on in your world? I mean, now that we're like here, it's we're second half of September. I mean, this is. I know it hurts. It hurts. But second half of September, if you had registered, you had to register to vote today, right? That was the big push today. So if you missed it, um, better luck next time, I think. Um, but yeah, what's going on in your world? I mean, I could go on, but I mean, you all said I'm going to go to the meeting tonight because I wanted to talk about this. And if you don't say anything, I'll talk about Bruce Springsteen's birthday being tomorrow. Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, that's funny.
I had a meeting yesterday with Senator Moran's office,
Wow.
and it just so happens that his legislative assistant in the Kansas City office has MS.
Wow. Wow.
Okay, and I
Did you
couldn't
know
figure
that?
and I couldn't figure out because Jerry's from my hometown. Jerry and I went to high school together. Okay,
Wow.
1 year. He was a freshman, I was a senior, but we don't want to talk about that too much. Uh, and So I've noticed that he's been really into things with the MS Society. And of course, I am always sending him stuff. And I thought, no, I can't have that much influence on him. Well, now I know who's got the influence on him.
Yeah.
Uh, but no, it was a good meeting, good meeting. And it looks like he'll be behind us 100%.
Nice.
Wow.
Good.
That's really
That's
nice.
good.
Yeah.
And you just had that meeting today, Frank?
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
It's so cool that you were able to meet with him. First of all, that you know him from back when, back in your high school, and that you got to meet with him, and then you have that other connection with MS. It's just like, yeah, yeah.
Plus, I have another way to cheat as far as he's concerned. It just so happens that my girlfriend, the chicken farmer,
Yes.
Yeah.
was in his class, and their locker was 2 lockers apart. Okay. And I was kind of robbing a cradle when I was a senior and she was a freshman. Um, and so, you know, we there's a family background. And when he was the county attorney, my mother was a county tax appraiser, and they redid all the tax rates, and all the oil companies in an oil-rich county said mom was wrong and filed appeals, and she and Jerry won every one of them. So, I mean, we've got a family connection beyond just he and I. He even showed up at mom's funeral unannounced. So,
Oh, well, thank you. It sounds like a good meeting.
it was a very good meeting.
That's good.
Good to hear.
Yeah, so how about you, Hannah? How are you doing?
Well, I'm very sleepy and super excited to tell you guys about a sleep study that I did
Oh,
last
Nice.
night. Yeah.
Yes, you were
And
gonna do that for the BiPAP, right?
yes. It was crazy because I'd never done a sleep study in the hospital before. It was in a hospital setting, so it was interesting to do that because the previous sleep study I'd done was in my own home with take-home equipment from my neurologist. So that was pretty nice actually. But this time I was in a facility, so they had me hooked up to all sorts of little wires. I had to take a picture because it was hilarious how many wires I had. Um,
How do you sleep
but
with that?
oh my goodness, not very well to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and it's funny because the wiring wasn't really that big of an issue for me. It was more the BiPAP machine itself. Because I think the way I understand how a sleep study works, I could be wrong in this, but the way I understand it is that the whole point of a sleep study is for the sleep technician to monitor your sleep wavelengths and adjust your airflow throughout the night every time she sees changes. And it was difficult because that was sort of like a test run of sorts, so that I could get the BiPAP machine, and so that whoever gives me the BiPAP machine, they put the settings in there that she records during that session. That's how I understand it. Um, yeah, and I learned a lot yesterday. I learned a lot about the different types of sleep apnea, which she only told me about two, and apparently I have both, so that's great. Um, what else?
How
Yeah,
did you
other than that,
feel when you slept with did you have the BiPAP on you overnight?
yeah.
How
So
did
it
you
was
feel when you woke up? Did you feel better, worse, same than usual?
worse. Um, Yeah, I felt worse because I had the full face mask on, and that mask, she had me started on the lowest setting, which was a number 8. That's the only terms I can put it in, is just number 8 is the lowest setting. And that was apparently not enough air for me. I needed a lot more air. And her job was to figure out how much air I needed. And I guess I don't know. I feel like I should have told her in the beginning that a number 8 setting was really too low for me, because the entire night I was trying to sleep, and me not knowing much about sleep apnea or BiPAP machines or anything, I'm just laying down there, just trying to breathe. It was a little difficult, not gonna lie, but here I am, like trying my hardest to breathe and stay relaxed and sleep at the same time, and which sounds pretty difficult. It was pretty difficult when you think about it. Um, but I ended up, like, I think at about 2 a.m. or something, I finally gave up trying to sleep, and I told I what did I do? I think she had one of those oxygen finger things
Pulse
on
ox.
me, so yeah, so I took it off, and so she came to come and see how I was doing, and see if I was alive, for one, and breathing. But yeah, that's when she sort of explained to me the whole process, and why you even have sleep studies to begin with. Um, and she explained why I wasn't able to get much sleep, and it's because of that airflow, and because of the fact that I should have been getting a lot more air than I was actually getting that night. Um, and I think once I actually reached REM sleep, I think that my airflow number, if I'm remembering correctly, was like 19, I think. So she ramped it up all the way from 8 to 19. And that's apparently my maximum, I guess, in order for me to achieve REM sleep. And I stayed in REM for like 30 seconds, what she said. So that was nice.
That's interesting. I don't know. I mean, do you have, I mean, it's interesting, Hannah, after we spoke last time, I looked at what Dr. Braley is doing where we go to the neurologist, and the correlation between multiple sclerosis and sleep apnea.
Hmm.
I didn't realize that. I mean, I've heard people say that they have trouble sleeping, just how common that is. And, I don't know, do any of you out there have trouble sleeping or anything with MS?
Well, we
Yeah,
know
I'm
with
curious.
Frank what his answer is. So
Yeah, Frank sleeps like a log.
Oh, no.
Everybody
This,
except
this is
Frank.
this is
No
Mike
problem.
Teddypool,
Yeah, hi, Mike.
and I'm haven't been at the meetings recently. And last time I was, I announced that I was doing a self-study on sleeping pills and whatnot, what it would take to get me to sleep best. And I have results. I'm not encouraged. I'm not encouraged by them, but I'm not bummed either. I don't believe I ever had sleep apnea, although I'm going to look into it, see if that is the root cause, but I doubt it. I've been on sleeping pills for probably 25 years, and I would increase the number of over-the-counter sleeping pills. I don't do this am Ambid or
Ambien.
Ambien. Yeah, I never took that. Anyway, then I found Xanax, and I could buy that in Mexico and bring it across the border in my pocket or something. And Xanax, uh, 1 2 milligram, half a milligram, I don't know which, works for me, puts me to sleep within a couple of hours, and I sleep all right. But I've been doing that for 10 or 15 years, and then I heard about somebody. Oh no, it was in this forum. Rick knows a woman here in Arizona who swears by her natural oils, and I
Yeah.
talked with her, and Jen gave me some samples to try, and it had the effect of a pimple on an elephant's behind, actually. And I said, if this works for me, it'll work for anybody. And it did nothing. So I laid awake for a couple nights, not sleeping at all, and I decided I had to go back to Xanax. And I thought, well, am I just trading one addiction for another? And she said, well, the oils are natural, and your Xanax is not natural. I said, well, if that's the only difference, I can live with that because Xanax I know works. And I tried marijuana brownies, I tried CBD, I tried all kinds of CBD, and nothing would help me sleep. So I just I'm fully back to. Although I did cut down on the number of sleeping pills, and my cocktail is much smaller than it was 2 months ago. Um, but I have to admit that Xanax and one or two sleeping pills will help me to sleep within an hour and a half, and I'll sleep solid through the night. So that's my story.
That's interesting, Mike. Thank you for sharing. Like, have you ever had a sleep study?
No, I haven't. Is that,
I,
that
I, I'm just interested. Dan, my husband, you're not
I'm
like,
right here. I'm
yeah,
right here.
but he was having trouble. Like, he has restless legs, and that would
I'm,
like, he would kick, and it would wake him up, and so he was tired all the time. But you sound like you're having trouble falling asleep.
yes, yeah.
It's interesting. Would you recommend having a sleep study, Hannah?
I think it may just depend because I know that with sleep apnea, at least from what I understand, if you're going to sleep at a decent enough time, decent enough hours, and still not getting enough rest, if you have sleep apnea, it could mean that you're waking up in the middle of the night. So I was just wondering, with you, Mike, are you feeling rested even with the Xanax and being able to fall asleep right away?
And not right away. It takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours,
Oh,
and then I'm able to sleep. I don't think I have any trouble breathing during
mm,
sleep. Uh, some friends of mine who have been confirmed to have sleep apnea, and they get their tongue or their nose, I forget what part of their body they get changed. And people have these masks and stuff. I don't believe I'm anywhere near that category. Just
Mhm.
getting to sleep, and it's probably because I've been taking sleeping pills and my own homemade cocktail for so long that my body doesn't recognize, normal sleep patterns if it bit me. So, but
Yeah.
I'm not bummed out. I'm not unhappy. For a while I was, and so I had to try some other things. I realized whatever I'm doing is working, and if it's legal or not, goes by doctor or it's fine.
Uh-oh.
And
It's just,
Uh-oh.
yeah.
Yeah, you cut off a little bit there for me. I don't know if you guys heard
Yeah,
that.
Yeah,
it cut
he
out
did
just a
for us
little
as
bit.
well.
Oh, yeah.
It's just interesting. Kim, how do you sleep pretty well?
No. It
not very
depends my
long.
cycle.
Mm.
If I get 5 hours of sleep, I'm good.
Oh, that's good.
I'm
Okay, so Mike, you're
56.
saying you're only sleeping like 4 to 5 hours a night? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a nap today.
But you take naps during the day?
Yeah, I can, and I will, and I do. And my energy level, although not what it used to be, is fine. I've adjusted, or to me, or whatever. But I don't feel lethargic or lack of sleep. I know what that feels like, and I don't experience that very often.
Well, then
I
let you.
think,
Yeah,
I don't know if it's got anything to do with MS or not.
and I was curious there, Kim, because you bristled, and I was going to ask even before that, round robin and just numbers only. How much sleep do you all get every given night? I personally, I'm like Mike. If I get 6 hours, I'm on, that's more than enough because I think if I get more than that, I'm groggy during the next day. But I say 5 to 6. Jennifer.
I like 7 hours. If I get 7, I'm happy. If I get 8, I'm even happier. But I don't get 7 or 8. I get 7 pretty much every night.
Frank. I'm going clockwise here. Frank.
8 to 9.
Nice.
Wow. Wow.
Hannah.
Great, Greg.
so I typically get 7 to 8, and I still don't feel like it's enough.
Okay.
Hence why I'm pretty sure the diagnosis of sleep apnea is correct.
Wow.
Yeah,
Middle
it's definitely not enough.
middle of the clock there. You can play, Alexa. I'm asking you, how much sleep do you get?
I am really trying to get 7 to 8 hours. Sometimes it is less than that. But I am like Jen. I feel even better with 7 and even better with 8.
hmm
Nice. Then Kim, how about you?
I am all over the place. If I can 8 or 9 hours, that is awesome. So Sunday, I slept like 8 hours, and that was fantastic. And then I can be at the other extreme where I either like finally fall asleep, and then I wake up at like 2 in the morning. And I'm up like last night. I was up at 2 a.m. I was up for like over an hour or something, came back. And then there's the other extreme, but there'll be some nights like I didn't go to bed at all. Like I never fell asleep, or it wasn't until like 3 or 4 or 5 a.m. So I'm just bouncing all over the place all the time, which is really frustrating for me. It's
Do
gotten,
you Kim, do you
yeah.
notice your well-being the day after you have a poor night of sleep, or how you feel after a full sleep?
Yeah, I definitely feel worse. Everything's more difficult because I'm more tired. Everything takes more effort. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Do you ever feel like that when you get too much sleep? Like on those nights that I'm lucky enough to get like 8 or 9 hours, I wake up and I'm like, I think I got a little more sleep than I should have.
Mm,
Hmm.
no, I think it's more that's more atypical. If I sleep a lot, it's because I needed it. I think there was a time like I think it was a month or two ago I actually commented I like slept like 12 hours or something ridiculous.
Yeah,
It
I
was
think
like
it was after you did your Ocrevus infusion and you were like leveling out from the steroids.
yeah. Yeah. But no,
Mhm.
it's I just kind of bounce all over the place and if, like last night I tried really, really hard chill it down in the evening, calm it down, good sleep hygiene, go to bed around 9, listen, and then not fall asleep. And then wake up around 2 something in the morning. I'm like, I felt like fine, get up. And then I read nothing exciting or crazy, but read for something like read 30 pages and then was able to go back and fall asleep for a while. But yeah, it's some days are a struggle and other days are great. Like I woke up Monday, yesterday was great. I'm like, wow, did we like, and it's not just me too. Like last night or yeah, my husband was also having major issues. Like he was tossing and turning. And so sometimes I sleep okay, but then someone else, like my cat or my dog or my husband, will then have issues and then wake me up.
Mhm.
So that downside of having other people in your sleep space, but they're also fun to snuggle with.
Yeah, it's
And it
interesting.
is. I mean, it's just interesting because and then you see the things with multiple sclerosis. Now you see stuff on Facebook and whatnot where we say we're tired throughout the day and all we want to do is take a nap, and then finally when you can go to sleep, insomnia hits and you just can't do it. It's like last night we were going to be so good. It's like let's go to bed, and I think yeah we were there. It was like 10 o'clock, and he lay there for like a half hour, and I'm not sleeping and thank God Monday Night Football, and there were still 12 minutes left in the game. So then you end up watching that, and then you stay up later than you should. But I wouldn't have slept had I not had I gone to bed when I wanted to. So it is hit and miss, and then pay for it the next day. But that's why there's coffee. And okay, good. I'm jumping topic now because unless you guys want to keep talking sleep, because we can.
No, go ahead.
Well, no, because it's our Spice Club. Because Jennifer, following up from last time, Jennifer went to the store and got ginger, and oh my God, the tea we had today, wow.
That was really, really good. And so, yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. It was really good. And it,
Is that ginger tea in the morning or before you go to bed?
well, I actually, Mike, I made it in the middle of the afternoon today because I went to the grocery store and I was curious. I wanted to try it, but it was really good. I did read online that some people drink it early in the morning. I don't know, Hannah, Kim, Alexa, I don't know if any of you have a.
Yeah, I had just heard from some people that they prefer to drink it in the morning. And I think I can't remember who told me this. I may have heard it from different sources, but they say it energizes them. For me, I could drink it any time of day and love it. So for me, it doesn't really seem to matter. So I guess just try it whenever and see how you feel.
Yeah, I thought it was delicious, so thank you.
Yeah, we were just talking last time, Mike, of the healing powers of ginger and turmeric. Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
And I
Hmm.
baby stepped it into ginger. I'll try turmeric next. So. Mike,
That re
have you ever had ginger?
I love ginger. I put it as a spice in several dishes I'd like to make, mostly Asian dishes. Um, and sometimes I use as a spice on steak or meat, hamburger type thing. Um, but I'm familiar with turmeric. I don't think it does anything for me, but I know a lot of people who swear by it. And I'll also add from an earlier conversation that I can't get going in the morning without a cup of coffee, strong coffee. First thing when I get up, the first thing I reach for is a cup of coffee.
Me too.
Frank needs
then
2 cups of coffee.
Then I'm good.
Does
Otherwise, I'm stumbling around and stuff.
does
Coffee is my lifeline.
does it wreak havoc in your bladder? Do any of you have trouble with caffeine in your bladder?
I have
Yes.
problems with caffeine, period. Like, that's
Okay.
something I have to, and this is going to be TMI for the dudes, so I just apologize. But if I drink too much caffeine, the nodules in my breast get really swollen and tender, and it's really painful for me, especially when I have my period. So I have to lay off that stuff. So I stay away from caffeine. Any tea I drink, I try to get caffeine free, or get tea that's herbal that has no caffeine in it. I will eat like chocolate and stuff, but that's not the amount of caffeine in that compared to like coffee, like Frank and Mike are talking about. It's, way different. So
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, and you say that, and because I was just thinking, because yeah, I can drink coffee at 7, 8 o'clock at night, and it doesn't faze me. But we had Pepsi last weekend. There must be more caffeine in that because I couldn't sleep.
it could have been. It also could have been just the pure sugar content you were consuming.
Yeah.
This is true, but I eat licorice and stuff. That's all sugar. Oh,
Yeah.
I used to be a huge ginger connoisseur when I had massive problems with nausea, which was a side effect for birth control medication. I switched up and I didn't think about it, and I'm like, why am I was nauseous so bad every day? And some people ginger really helps, other people doesn't, but for me, ginger was very helpful. So I was massively into ginger ale and ginger chews and all that stuff for a while until my friend did you change something? I'm like, oh, that's right, I did. And then I yanked myself off of that, and the nausea went away. But it was like I had morning sickness every day, and it sucked so bad.
Yeah.
I understand that completely, Kim. Same
Yeah,
here for
it's
for
like,
the longest time.
get me off of
And
this. I'm done. No,
yeah,
we're done with this.
yeah. I do suffer from some stomach issues
Mhm.
that my gastroenterologist believes is caused by MS, but doesn't really know. And nausea is one of those things, and ginger tea helps me a lot with that.
It's so
So,
good to hear, Hannah,
mhm,
that ginger is very effective because
mhm.
nausea is, for me, is one of those side effects or symptoms that's just really hard to deal with.
Yep.
You just feel so sick.
Mhm.
And Hannah, it's interesting. We spoke with one of our group members, if we can call ourselves group members. But Mary, we spoke with her. She didn't think she would be at the meeting tonight. She was been suffering with some gastrointestinal issues, and obviously she has MS. That's why she's in the group. But she was just talking about that her doctor, her GI, if that's the right thing, that her doctor is kind of linking some of her gastrointestinal issues with multiple sclerosis. So
Yeah.
hopefully she said that she will be at our next meeting. So maybe we can talk about that.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah.
has your doctor ever said there's a correlation for you?
Yes. In fact, both my neurologist and the gastroenterologist have talked to me about it. And there is a condition that they couldn't really point to exactly, but they were leaning towards that condition that's connected with nerve issues, which would be MS, of course. And I think it's called gastroparesis. Um,
The
yeah,
slowing
yeah.
down, the slowing down of your intestines.
Yes, yes, yes. I don't think they told me what it actually meant. So thank you. But I really hope that was it Mary that was missing
Yeah.
today? Mary,
Yeah.
yeah, I really hope that Mary is not experiencing stuff like that I mean, I don't know what she's going through, but that's the kind of stuff that I had dealt with last year. This year I've been really good about it, and I haven't lost any weight or anything. I haven't, I've stabilized since last year. But for me, I think it was a feeling of fullness, which I couldn't really eat very much. I would just feel very, very full very, very quickly, and I had to take things in small bites. And eat just very, very slowly, like 10 meals or so throughout the day. And that's what it looked like for me. So I don't know if anybody else has felt that or had any other gastro issues.
Well, what's interesting, and I don't want to be like, but when I lived in my old neighborhood when I was first diagnosed with MS, one of my neighbors down the street also coincidentally was diagnosed with MS, and she was experiencing the MS hug, and
Oh, yeah.
she lost close to 100 pounds.
Yeah.
Couldn't eat. And I wonder,
Mhm.
but I was diagnosed over 20 years ago. So this was, 20 years ago. And maybe like the MS or the connection with the GI and MS, there wasn't the connection that there is now.
Yeah.
I'm friends with that woman's daughter on Facebook because that's how we're all connected. I should reach out to Amy and just say, how's your mom doing? And just see. I will do that. Secretary, will you take a note?
Yes.
Ask Amy.
Ask Amy.
Yeah. Because I think that's interesting, just that connection between MS and Rick was saying that he was on hormones for cancer and that, he had nausea and just that, that changes sleep habits and just how everything is so interconnected with nerve issues and the gastroenterologist. And yeah, there's so many.
Mrs.
Well,
Digman, I wanted to remind you that you had an appointment tomorrow morning at 9:30 with Mr.
Oh, thank you. My-
Well,
So,
well,
when you're talking about the brain and spinal cord, that affects everything. Every part of every cell in your body has, either your brain's telling it what to do or it's sending messages back to the brain, giving it information. So, in theory, you could say everything is tied to the brain and spinal cord. And so, yes, in theory, it probably does interact with. And in the medical field, or we like to simplify things like, hey, you're a hand doctor or you're a brain doctor, but our body's all interconnected. We try to simplify it by compartmentalize it, but in reality it's all together. So
mhm.
yeah.
And that brings up a good point actually, because I just thinking about we're talking about gastro issues. We were talking about sleep issues. Jennifer, you'd mentioned the MS hug, which I have experienced before pretty profoundly in the past, and it's interesting that it all connects. It all seems to feel like it might be coming from the same area, at least in me. It's the diaphragm area and it's the chest area. So I wonder if there's a correlation somewhere in the brain with where MS is affecting that part of the brain. And I don't know, it just sort of like made me think back to yes, it is all interconnected. It's all nerves
Yeah,
and
well,
nerve
that was
damage.
interesting when Dan was talking to our neurologist about his restless, like sleeping. And the doctor, she like whips up the MRI and puts it on the screen. And she's like, well, you see where this lesion is? This is like you know, where,
But yeah, she just pointed that, with where the lesions are, like in my spine, that
Yeah.
those lead to that it makes sense that I have restless leg because of where the lesions in my spine are. Not, and that's just like not talking the brain, but just like specifically there in the spine. And you're just like, and seriously, I wanted to hug her that day because it was finally like made sense of why my legs kick. Because I just kept thinking, I liked feeling the cold sheets, and that's why I keep moving my legs around. But it's just like, yeah, it's because I was just jumpy. So
And that's interesting because I've heard people talk about the MS hug, but I've never experienced it. What's it? What's
Show of
it?
hands, who's experiencing MS hug? In 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I did because it's like I get numb in my, just in the torso. But when I read what people describe as the MS hug, it's like, yeah, I got nothing on that. I mean, was it really bad for you guys?
I actually thought I was having a heart attack.
Really?
That sounds bad then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How, yeah, do you still experience it now or is
No,
it,
it, I mean, minor discomfort,
yeah.
pressure feeling. But no, there was only one time that it got to the point where I really did believe I was having a heart attack. As a matter of fact, I went to the emergency room to have it checked.
Wow.
Which was
Oh,
very
yeah.
smart of you to do, Frank, by the way.
Yeah.
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 I commend you for going to the ER, not being like, oh, it's just MS. I'll just blink. No, it could be serious.
Yeah.
Oh,
That was a
well,
good
no,
call.
I was convinced it was serious. It was, I
Yeah.
didn't think it was, anything MS related.
Oh, that would be scary.
Yeah, that
What
is
about, what,
terrifying.
what about you, Mike? Have you ever had the MS hug?
I'm not familiar with the term, or I guess it's the tightness or something. I mean, I've had that.
That's as I understand it.
Would
Hmm.
how is that how you would?
Sorry for anybody who suffers from it.
Yeah, that's
Is
interesting.
that how it was for you, Hannah? Just tightness and
It was a lot. It did start out initially as feeling like me wearing a corset. Um, well, I say corset, but in my head I was thinking the face hugger from Alien, but it was on my back and it was just hugging me. Um,
Good
so that was in my head.
visualization.
Yeah. And but I also felt it on my diaphragm too. It felt like there was this pressure there, like this big massive elephant like right there. Oh, no, I'm sorry, a tiny little elephant right there on my chest. And it was just always I could barely breathe because of it. And because I couldn't breathe, I couldn't really lift very much. Every time I laughed, it was really hard laughing. Um, and that was all with the face hugger sensation on my back too. So I couldn't really lift much. I ended up having panic attacks because I couldn't get the brain, or I'm sorry, I couldn't get the oxygen to my brain. Had a lot of anxiety at the time, so there were those secondary issues too that come with it, all because I couldn't breathe. And I think also now that I've thought about this before actually. I had confused the gastroparesis with the MS hug symptoms, even though of course they're all nerves and they probably are interconnected, of course, in that way. But I couldn't eat a lot too, and I in my head at the time I thought of that all as the MS hug as well. So it was kind of a lot.
How long did that hug last for you, Hannah?
Mm, a good 2 years. I think that this is the first year that I have not really felt it that extensively. I still experience breathing issues, but it's not the tightened hug issue. And yeah, and honestly, this summer has been really good as far as that's concerned.
So
I
is it consistent that it never goes away, or does it ebb and flow?
It was consistent. That
Wow.
particular system was consistent. Yeah.
is is there
And
any medicine that or anything you take to help control it?
Um, no. I mean, I think that if there was, my doctor probably would have told me about it. But neither of my neurologists did, so I just kind of lived with it and, learned to accept help. from other people because, of course, I couldn't lift anything for the longest time and I couldn't do much work. So, it's just sort of living with it, working your life around it. You guys know that.
Frank, I have a question because I had never heard of MS Hug before, so I wrote it down and went on my phone to look at it, and that's why I'm so glad I've been listening in these 2 times. I've learned so much. When you went to the emergency room, how did they figure out it was the MS Hug, and how did they treat you? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to tell you about that. Because of the MS, they couldn't give me a cardiac stress test like they normally do with people on a treadmill or anything like that. So they did it with drugs. And they injected me with some drugs that got my heart pumping like crazy. I mean, it was unbelievable. And as a matter of fact, I even made a comment to the doctors. I have never felt my heart beat so fast in my entire life. In it, and they were able to, just like a normal cardiac stress test, and then give me drugs to slow me back down and bring me back to normal again. It was an experience. That's all I can say. It was an experience.
How old?
Was the doctor happy with the results of your
Oh yeah,
induced stress test?
I went through it no problem at all because it wasn't a heart attack. So I recovered from it very rapidly, and it was, all I could say is, boy, you want to talk about some good drugs. That's really all I can say.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't find any problem with it. It was just the MS hug, and
Have you
So,
experienced that problem again?
not like that. Not like that at all. No, that was a one-time occurrence. That was just unbelievable. And it happened to be on Christmas Eve, and there was a lot of stress and everything that is associated with Christmas Eve, and it hit me. And it hit me while I was in a mall, believe it or not.
Wow.
wow. I'm curious, Frank. You say that it felt like a heart attack. Does that mean that you felt it in your chest in that same area, or
Oh yeah.
okay, okay.
Okay.
Was it like a
It was like I had a belt around my chest.
oh,
It was getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. And that's all I could say. It was kind of like you described, except it was right around my chest, and it just would not stop. It was
wow.
unbelievably strong pressure.
Does your doctor think it's related to MS, or was it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, it was MS, and it was my comment to the doctor, and the doctor said to me, "MS can do anything,
So true. So true.
anything. So get used to it. You're going to find lots of surprises in your life, and that's just one of them. And that's what it chose to pick that day."
One thing I've been meaning to ask the group, because we've all had MS for years, and we've all so some of us are older, and I'm experiencing something I never had experienced before. Not that it was terrible, but it was just different. And I thought there's only 2 kinds of MS: relapsing, remitting, and more progressive. And then I started reading about. I shouldn't, because I'm told things I didn't know, and I to believe that MS will, in 90% of the cases, um, what starts out as relapsing remitting becomes more chronic or more different, shows up in different ways as we get older, or something move on in the progression of the disease. Not to associate that with progressive MS, but it is. Am I right or wrong? I thought I had a roadmap that my life would be different, but it would stay pretty much the same. And then it became lame and leg and start fall and
Well, mine was relapsing and remitting for about 20 years. Okay. And then all of a sudden it became secondary progressive. And I don't have the relapses anymore. I don't have, the attacks or anything like that. But I just gradually get a little bit worse as time goes along. And I haven't had an attack.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're progressing, Mike, or do you feel like you're pretty
I
much
do I do now that Frank or Dan has mentioned that. Um, you get confirmation that this disease does move in that can move in that direction. I feel weaker and less steady on my mind. I'm not sure my wife might disagree. I don't know. It just knowing that it's not going to get it's not going to change for the better, but most likely change for the worse in me.
What I've found is it's slowed down the progressive. I mean, when it was relapsing, remitting, I would get an attack and get bad and then recover. And now it's just like little bitty things happen. It's not major changes overnight. It's little minor changes over time. And
and then you like you say to yourself, I used to be able to stretch and reach that door handle no problem. And then like 3 months later, you're like, why can't I do that anymore? It's just
Yeah,
slowly
yeah.
getting, yeah.
So
How long have you been living with MS, Mike?
I was diagnosed in 97,
Okay.
96, 97, and I was on the wrong drug, the Biogen drug that I had the antibody to. I'm one of the 0.3% people that have the antibody. So I was injecting. I may as well have been injecting water for 5 years, and then I had a major I forget what
Like an
and yeah, and then the doctor realized I was on the wrong drug, and I've been on Copaxone since, and had no problems with that for 15 years, from 2003 until 2018 when I had a big blowout, and have been the same since. And slowly things are becoming more difficult, and I'm trying to find out why, or if that's it's so subtle that also I know I'm aging. I try to keep in shape somehow and move around and stuff. Um, but I notice little things, and then I read an article about MS being 90. I mean, a large number of people being affected progressively as a disease goes on. And I hadn't expected that. In fact, no neurologist ever mentioned that to me. I thought it would be the same until as long as I'm alive. And I wanted to hear from the group here tonight whether other people have similar experiences. And of course, you do, and that's something I have to look into and deal with. And talk to I'm changing neurologists So I'll make sure my new one has some good background in MS and a good background and is young and well educated up on things, because the other guys I've been seeing have been well, I stopped seeing them because they all retired.
Yeah. So you have found another neurologist to see, Mike?
I have a couple. I have not found a neurologist yet,
Okay.
but I got a list to choose from, and they all say they're accepting patients. Whether they are or not, I'll find out in the next few days when I dial around, try to set up the first appointment.
Yeah,
I'm looking for somebody who graduated around the year 2000 from medical school, and so he's got the 90s teaching skills and the experience of dealing with MS patients for about 20 years.
yeah.
Is what.
Well,
And
Mike,
figure
are you taking any sort of medicine now?
I'm taking Copaxone
Okay.
three times a week.
I just wonder, with like some of the newer medications, if there is something that, yeah, different neurologists may recommend something to, I don't know, there's just so many available treatment options. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would hope that there could be something.
I have to open my mind. I'm sort of fashioned with.
One thing I'm going to mention to you, Mike. So when I saw the neuropsychologist last year, he recommended 4 different books to me. And one book he did recommend to me, which was interesting, is like MS for Dummies. It's good. Read it. And I'm like, well, I've read about tons about MS, but sure, why not? And I started reading it again a couple weeks ago because I'm like, I'm going to see the neurologist here, neuropsychologist here. I better read some of the things he recommended to me when he asked me about it. And I actually found it really helpful to just kind of go back to the basics and refresh on things that I haven't thought about for a while. And those books, I don't know if you ever read like a whatever, insert whatever for dummies, they're actually really good. And
Yeah.
so I was really pleasantly surprised. He asked me about that. And I'm like, actually, I did find it helpful to read that book. Obviously, the drug part is outdated because we have exploded in drugs the last, 5 years. But
Right.
all the other stuff, you're like, oh, yeah, I kind of forgot about that. Frank and Mike, go ahead.
No, thank you for that advice. I will take it. I'll find MS for Dummies and others.
At your library, you'll find it at your library.
Okay. And you're probably also right about the drugs. I should be open to listening to a new neurologist, see what he says. So you've helped me to set my mind and be ready to take a different tack. After 25 years of the same old stuff, maybe it's time to do that.
And the one that I have is the second edition, MS for Dummies, second edition, which was 2012. Yeah, so it's a little on the older side, but still has a lot of information in it.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
And Mike, I just did a quick little Google search of drug treatments for secondary progressive MS, if in fact that is what you might have. And WebMD actually tells me that there are 6 different drugs choices out there, which is quite a lot in my opinion. I had no idea that there were that many for secondary progressive. So, if that's indeed the route you decide to take, there's a lot of options out there. So just want to let you know that.
So I could be going through the stage of entering secondary progressive MS,
Correct.
and look up drugs for that.
Yeah.
So I'm familiar before I go see the neurologist. Okay. Well, that's helpful also.
I think I'd be careful about that. I think
Yeah.
I'd really push that on the neurologist rather than trying to make that determination yourself, because
No.
that's a tough call.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I want to familiarize myself with the drug names and a little bit about them, because if my doctor were to choose one of them, it might be helpful to me. I wouldn't self administer or prescribe, but I've been on Copaxone. Copaxone is 30 years old, and I'm not familiar with many others, so I need to look into it.
I want to say this just for everybody here, for the long timers and for the newer people. But I just want to say, how exciting is this then, as far as MS treatments are concerned, that for those of us who have been here forever and stuff, that now there are 6 medications to treat secondary progressive, whereas when we were diagnosed, there were only 3 overall and none for progressive MS. So now there's there's 6, pretty much twice the number that were available when we were diagnosed for relapsing remitting, that twice as many now for progressive form of the disease. And overall, I think they're pushing close to 20 drugs. So, I mean, this in the 21 years since I've had MS, just the success and how far they've taken, at least in terms of the treatment of the disease. I think, for anyone who says nothing's happening in the MS world, well, that's not true. I mean, there's so much going on. So, I mean, not to say it's an exciting time to have multiple sclerosis, but it's an exciting time to have multiple sclerosis.
Yeah,
And
I
I
can
think
agree
too,
with that.
like for myself, when I'm on a drug and it's working, I don't even pay attention to all the new drugs until I'm like, oh, maybe there's something wrong. And then I start doing the research. I don't like keep on like, yeah, whatever. And someone's on like, oh, tell me about it. But I don't invest a lot of energy and time into learning all the new drugs because I'm like, I'm on this and not worry about it until I have to cross that bridge. So I understand what you're saying, Mike, where you're like, I've been on Copaxone for a really long time and I totally feel out of the loop on these new drugs.
I just wanted to say that I'm celebrating with you. I had a neurological condition that was similar to MS called chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy. And my nurse actually used to treat MS patients exclusively. And so she would tell me all the updates in the medication because she still followed it for all her MS friends. And she was so excited when the oral medications came out. And she's like, we've been waiting for this. And I've watched as the progression over maybe 10 years that things have really improved with the biologics. And I even was researching Ocrevus last night and the pharmacology with it. And it's actually similar to a drug used kind of in the cancer world. And it's just very exciting, all these developments and how they translate.
Mhm. Absolutely. That there are
So
so
you
many
have
available.
more neurological conditions besides MS.
What was that again, Mike?
The speaker, I don't know who it was. She said she has.
Me. I had chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyneuropathy, which was CIDP. I do not personally have MS because I'm producing and directing the webinar, so I've been in here to listen. But yeah, I'm just really excited of all the new treatment options there's been.
Got it.
Mike, that was Alexa that was speaking. And so, just so we were, Rick was talking about the family event that we're having on the 30th of September. Alexa is producing that, and she's been so lovely to listen. and like add very valuable information. She was the one, she and Hannah told us about ginger and just how adding ginger is very good. And so that's how that got that going. So yeah, but we'll have to ask, when do you think you perhaps would see a new neurologist, Mike?
It took me last time 6 months to see a nurse practitioner,
Okay.
and so I don't know. I'm gonna try and find somebody who fits my desire, and I don't know. I'm gonna start calling tomorrow, and I've narrowed down my list to about 10 in the Tucson area, and I'll see what happens. But I'll also check with Rick because he's a neighbor, and about I missed the opening dialogue tonight, but I'll have Rick catch me up on the 30th, what to expect and what to bring.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I think we'll be excited and interested to hear when you finally get hooked up with a new neurologist.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, the group has helped me get energized for moving in that direction, and I appreciate it.
Good.
Yeah. Good.
Is the Mayo Clinic in Arizona too far for you? I think it's in Phoenix.
Yeah, it's Scottsdale. It's 2.5 hours.
Okay, so it's actually closer for you to go to the Mayo Clinic in Arizona than it's for me to go to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota.
That would be one way to look at it.
Yeah, because I have to go like over 3 hours to get there, so I was just curious.
Ouch.
Oh no, that's great. 3 hours? That's way better than 5 when I lived in Sioux City. Or
I have friends who go to the Mayo Clinic for various things, and I heard they got a pretty good neurology department. Maybe I'll call up there.
yeah, if they could take your insurance, I would recommend. I just had my appointment on Thursday last week, so it was quite insightful.
Yeah, how did that appointment go, Kim?
It's great. I'll tell you about it. It's kind of long though. You ready for the ride? We're
Yeah,
switching.
Let me
We're
settle
I
in.
got
All
my
right.
seatbelt.
Go for it.
we're flipping topics here. So okay, hold on here. I was getting hot. Okay. So I had my. Can you still hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I had my appointment, and my husband went up. And the first thing is, they treat the whole social distancing and masks completely different in Minnesota. Night and day. It's very nice. Anyway, I went. As you guys noticed last time we talked, I was like talking about the supplement and how I was getting this energy and how cool it was and everything. And I've just kept getting. I so for those who do not know in the conversation, September last year, I started to like essentially become bedbound for about 5.5 months, where if the food wasn't ready to eat or microwave, I didn't have enough energy to stand in the stove and stir my food, that was too much effort. So I've been going on a slow incline since I went back on eating better, getting away from the standard American diet in mid-January. And I've been having more energy, and the weather's been fantastic where it's gotten cooler, but we have lots of sunlight, the humidity's died down. And I booked a hotel near Mayo Clinic, and I found out my MRI appointment was like 6:15 in the morning, because you go get your MRI done, you see the neuropsychologist, you see the neurologist in the afternoon, and they have the results. Which, when you're used to that, and then you go somewhere else and like, yeah, it's gonna be 2 weeks, you're like, what? Throws you off. Anyway, I decided I want to walk to my MRI appointment, which was 2 miles away. And I talked to the gal that we were checking in the hospital, and she's like, "Oh yeah, go down this rural route, this residential route." And I'm like, "Well, it's like 5:45, and I feel safe in Rochester, but I'm like, just double checking, like, is it safe?" She's like, "Yeah, yeah, it's cool." So I did it. I was able to do it. My cardio sucks, but I was able to do it, and I had energy. And by the time my 2:30 neurology appointment arrived, I had done like 10,500 steps, because between the walking, I did the MRI. It was like an 8 or 9 minute walk from the hotel. Go ahead.
Oh,
Okay.
we want to hear your story.
Oh, I'm sorry. I heard something, so I thought something was the same. So I walked to and from. I did not walk home from the MRI. My husband, I'm like, text him like, come find me, and I start walking back, and he picked me up somewhere in between. And then I walked to and from my neuropsychologist appointment, which was amazing. He wasn't testing me. It was like having a psych. I don't know. I can't explain it. He's great. And then I had my neurology appointment, and I had a gal that was doing her fellowship, which what you do after your residency. So you do med school, residency, and then made fellowship. She's doing her second year. And she found out that my right hand, so if you put your hand out like this and you go like this, it's a lot harder for me to do with my right hand. And that made sense because a couple months ago when I played the piano for fun, when I was watching my niece and nephew, like my right hand to play, it was like not I mean, I could play, but it was just kind of delayed. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So she caught that. But the thing that was the aha crazy moment that I just totally didn't get was the neurologist came in, and he sits down, and the whole time the neuropsychologist and the neurologist were just really going on about exercise and food, and they were just kept going, and I'm just like, at this point I'm like, oh god, I'm super motivated, you know continue increasing my exercise and continue doing my diet, and Hannah will appreciate this. The neuropsychologist was like, well, if you don't be so restrictive, but if you're not going to eat anything, don't eat dairy. So I thought of you, Hannah. And so I'm sitting there, and they're asking me questions, and I'm feeling great. I'm having a great day. I've done this exercise, and my endurance is awesome. And he looks at me and he goes, you are hypomanic. And so my first reaction is, what's hypomanic? Pressured speech, euphoria, and all this stuff. And I'm like, I am. And then he says, with MS, it's very common for people with MS to have symptoms like bipolar with the so there's two types of bipolar. There's the mania, which we're talking about, where you could have psychosis, which you lose your sense of reality, which is like Britney Spears shaving off her hair, or like Kanye West, or a hypomania, which is more above your baseline, where you have lots of energy, but we're a place where you're doing like really crazy things. You're totally in control. And so he says that. And so he said, you're not bipolar, but the MS is creating bipolar-like symptoms in you. And it was like he gave me the puzzle piece I was missing. So the best way, the reaction of me when he told me that was like, my first response was like, if you're sitting at a table eating with somebody and suddenly they say, hey, you got ketchup on your shirt, and you're like, what? I don't remember spitting out the ketchup or dripping, but you look down, you're like, oh yeah, I do have ketchup on my shirt, don't I? And that's another reason why doctors don't diagnose themselves, is because you're too close to it. But once he said that, like my bachelor's in psychology, my background in medical field, I'm like, this is my wheelhouse. I understand this. But they said nothing about medications, because they wanted me to control it all with exercise and stuff. And he's like, so my first reaction after he said that was like, but can I just enjoy it for a while, because I was in this awful bedbound state for a while. And he's like, well, no, you've enjoyed it, and I don't want you to burn out. And I was just like, he's totally right. So that was very insightful for me, because listening and processing all this, it made sense to me. So one of my struggles when I was bedbound, and I will share this story with some of the people that haven't been here, like when I was in Chicago in December, my mom drove, we spent the night, next day just watched my nephew play music thing. And when I wasn't eating or traveling or at the concert, I was literally laying down the entire time, not sleeping, just had to physically lay down because sitting up was too much. And when I got home, like we weren't even home, our first rest stop, I'm like, I have to lay down the rest of the way. I can't even sit up in the front seat anymore. And when I got home, I could do nothing for 5 days. Like just totally incapacitated. And it made sense because I'm like, okay, so depression, so the bipolar, you have the hypo, so type 2 is the hypo, not the mania, and then you have the depression episode. And then it made sense, like, okay, so you had the fatigue from the MS, and which is like what I call physical fatigue. We'll just label physical fatigue. But then you had the mental fatigue from the depressive episode, and you add those together, and that's what crushed you. So when you were laying in bed previously, you'd be like laying in bed and you're like, well, that, eventually I'll get a little energy and I can go do something again. And you weren't recovering. That's why, because you had the psych versus on top of the physical, and that just that psych depression, that psych fatigue is not going to be really relieved by resting. And I'm like, that makes sense. And I'm like, okay, so why is the depressive episodes, why is it more the physical symptoms I experienced than like the quote mood? And then I figured it out. So I will use my husband and me as an example, and I'm going to talk in third person because it sounds more interesting. So third person, so me, or sorry, Kim, my normal baseline mood is like, hey, how's it going? How are you? I'm laughing, and every once in a while I'll do a goofy face like that. That's my normal. My husband, his normal is sitting there with his arms crossed, not smiling. So if you take both of us and you put us both down to a depressive mood, his mood and my mood are going to look completely different. I would argue my depressive mood is going to look closer to his baseline. And that's why it wasn't as obvious to me. So I'm like, oh, this makes sense. So the interesting thing is the next morning, I got up, it was a little bit, but then by 9 o'clock, the whole hypomania disappeared and dissipated. But now I know what to look for. And I had never heard that before. Like in MS, we talk about, oh, depressive, and we like to blame it like just because we have MS, so we're depressed. And no, MS is actually doing things in our brain that makes us, have these symptoms. And then to understand, when you're feeling good, oh yeah, you want to do something because you have energy. Well, actually, you can go a little too much that way and nothing of your fault. But my first symptoms with MS was the fall of 2001 when I was living in Alaska. And my first depressive episode, I would say, was I thought it was culture shock. When I came back from Alaska, that was my dream. I was living my dream of going to my state and having a good time. And it was just really hard for me to come back and readjust, you know. And then my second episode would be like, well, my dog died in 2010. And then my third one was, I guess, last fall. But all of them, besides the one that happened last fall, they all happened in the fall, like this August, September. And I was just like, and then the hypomania started. And I'm like, maybe it's, and then I was reading about bipolar, like, oh, seasons change. So for me, I have in my toolbox now, if someone asked me, so what's MS like for you? I would say, if you're just looking on the psych aspect, look at bipolar 2. That's what I experienced. And that was just so enlightening. And I'm just like, because I was like, Mike was talking earlier about like, changing and struggling. I'm like, well, I think I'm getting worse. I mean, I was bedbound for 5.5 months. No, isn't that worse? But my MRI that I had last week, like, yeah, no new lesions, no change. This is awesome. But it was really, I don't know. It was just, and I wasn't the first time I was hypomanic, but I don't know if I've been that long and I can't remember, but I've had the pressured speech and the euphoria. And like yesterday was a great day for me, but I didn't have those symptoms. That wasn't hypomania. But I didn't, in all my training, no one has ever said, hey, if you look at the Mayo Clinic website on bipolar, it'll have like bipolar, mixed up, and it says other type, caused by diseases such as Cushing's, multiple sclerosis, and stroke. And I'm like, there you go.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you definitely got some answers and
It was so helpful, like, because, and then the beautiful thing about it is that he knows me, so I don't think another patient of his, he would just say to them straight to their face, you are hypomanic. He wouldn't say that, but he knew what I knew it would have meant, and he knew my background. So And he didn't have to explain it to me, but he just had to connect, this is very common in MS. You don't have bipolar. And then I'm like, all
Is
right.
is that the way Mayo Clinic sets up an initial appointment with an MS patient? Is to do an MRI, meet with a neuropsychologist, and then to meet with the neurologist, or
Okay, that's a
do they?
great question, Mike. So when I first went to the Mayo Clinic, I did not have a diagnosis of MS. So they first teamed me up with both just a normal plain old neurologist and then an MS specialty guy. And then they decide you have your first appointment with the doctor, they decide up all the tests you have. Like if you want to do, like the first time I was there, they did MRIs, they did spinal tap, that thing. Once I got diagnosed, they dropped off that neurologist and I just saw the MS specialty doc. And so the first time I've seen 3 MS specialty docs because of the big gap. And the first one I saw originally when I came back, he was the CEO of Mayo in Rochester, so he wasn't seeing patients. So I had to get a different one. But the neurologist, the MS specialty doctor I saw last year was the first time I saw him. So the first thing we did is we had like a 90-minute consultation. And then he decided what he wanted to do, a full MRI from my entire brain and spinal cord. And he wanted to do what they call an MRI, a really strong one. It's a 7 Tesla. The strength is 7 versus like a normal MRI is like a 3 or 3.5, because he really wanted to see the details in my brain. And then you go back, you have all your tests, and then you go back and get the results from him. So depending on when they can schedule things, it's a lot of times like a multi-day stay.
And it sounds like it probably is dependent on your insurance too.
Yeah, my insurance covers Mayo Clinic. So one of my biggest concerns when I was up there was my cognition. So that's why I saw the neuropsychologist. That's why last year they were testing me, doing all these tests again. I've done 2 previous tests in Des Moines, but never at Mayo Clinic. And so that's where the neuropsychologist came in. And then he was different because he's not just testing and doing results. He's just so much more. He's almost like he has like a doctorate in psych, so but he's also kind of like a shrink coming in, And my neurologist and the neuropsychologist are like, I swear they're tight buddies. And he told me a little bit, like when he was talking to the neuropsychologist on the phone, because he saw me first, he's like, Kim, like essentially like she's not crazy, but something's going on. And then they saw me and they're like, yeah. And I'm just like, interesting. But yeah, and then when I read that MS book for dummies, they actually said in there that the comorbidity, so when you have multiple disease of bipolar and MS, is higher than it is in the general population. Didn't tell you an actual number, but they say it's higher.
Oh, wow.
So your symptoms of depression and stuff may not just be because, I have MS. It may be like it's creating that extra thing. So don't be so hard on yourself. And the other thing that was interesting about the whole drug aspect, they asked me, why did you stop Cymbalta? And I said, my libido died. And essentially, if you put me on Cymbalta, I know I'm female, but you're essentially chemically castrating me, and that's in my life, being married, that's 41, that's probably not a good thing to do for me. So I was really grateful, and I have such high respect the fact that they didn't bring drugs to the table and that they were so into the food and the diet and the exercise. And he's like, you need to do cardio every day. I need you to get endorphins to keep that mood. And I'm just like, sweet. So, but that was just incredibly insightful to me. I just did not see that coming. And I think it would be harder with me anyway, because my normal baseline, I'm kind of like a little on the happier side, a little jolly, a little more, that's just who I am. So it's a little harder to see. So,
Well, thank you
That's
for
huge.
sharing all that. That is huge. And that was just like a week ago, right?
Yeah, that was Thursday, but it started, so my fatigue has been decreasing slowly. and then it went boom, the energy level. But like I was always in control, like having conversations. I wasn't, because someone who's manic can make really bad choices. Like they spend all their money, they
Yeah.
go do these crazy things, and that's not what I was doing. I was very, but I was just surprised because I just thought, I'm just feeling really good because I was really bad for a really, really long time, you know? So
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting.
it was. And I
Yeah.
just never made that connection. And no one has ever said, hey, you can have these symptoms caused by MS.
That's interesting. As we've
Yeah,
been
this
Has
talking about, so much can be connected to MS.
Yeah.
is so your entire experience, Kim, has been really enlightening for me because I had no idea either.
No
And
one
I,
no one tells me this stuff, and I see my
yeah.
normal neurologist the 30th this month.
Mhm.
So I'll be saying, yeah, they said I was hypomanic, and then I have all these questions from my neurologist at the Mayo Clinic next year, like, so how many of your patients come in hypomanic? You know, how often does this happen and stuff? But he was like, I told my husband because I'm not bash. I like my neurologist. He was a good neurologist, but there's good, and then there's excellent. I don't want to, and then so they're like, yeah, we will see you every year, because when I saw them last year, they were like, well, we may see you, may not. And then my neuropsychologist like, dude, you could come in. I'm like, I'm not coming in unless I can see the neurologist. I'm not going all the way up there. And then I saw them and they found this. I'm just like, what's the probability that I'd show up in this state? And they just like, yeah, that's what you have. And it's just like, wow, incredible. But when I find out something like that, instead of being like, oh, this is terrible or something, like, oh my God, I understood something. Can I like make a Facebook post or something? I told Carly on Sunday
Yep.
because she's doing her psych thing. I'm like, if you have time, I have this thing with psych. I think you're going to really enjoy. You might be interested in. And she said something really interesting. She's like, well, if you do want to write something down the road, Rick and everyone, they'd be great people that they could send it out into the universe. I'm like, I'm there. So
That's
it's
good.
not going to happen today, but down the road when the sun starts coming and I'm like, what am I going to do next? Oh yeah, but I've kept a journal a little bit. So I didn't do that when I went blind in my left eye, and I highly regret that. So just kind of the snippets, but yeah, it was just so insightful and an eye opener. And I'm just like, and the thing that was really cool for me is I'm always, doing that, the compassion and the empathy. And I'm just like, Kim, you really walk the walk and talk the talk on this one. The self-compassion and the empathy that you had for yourself. Incredible. Like, wow, you're actually, you're making some progress in your life. We've made some progress here. And I was just really proud versus like, how are they going to react to that? It's just like, no, just tell everybody and hopefully help somebody,
Yeah. Well, thank you. That was
Yeah.
really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've never heard of a neuropsychologist.
Yes. They're the ones that test you when you have cognition problems, where they take you through all these series of memorization and draw this and that. They're the ones that specialize in those tests.
Wow.
Yeah.
They have those in
And
Kansas, Frank.
No, wait, no. Here in Western Kansas, no. We're lucky to see a neurologist.
that's so true. It's really hard to find a neurologist when you go rural versus you have to kind of travel to a bigger town, especially if you want an MS specialty,
Right.
doc.
Yeah.
You can't just go. But when I originally had my appointment, I'm like, what are they going to do? I'm like feeling pretty good. And then they're like, oh, we're going to tell you about this. I'm like, good to know. But it really, so when I was frustrated the past year, like, why am I having these symptoms? Am I getting worse? The answer is short. I was in a depressive episode and the psych symptoms were worsening everything. Okay. It makes sense now to me. It's like, I get it now.
Yeah.
Because I was afraid, like I was doing secondary progressive. I'm like, come on, I'm bedbound. Like, how much do you want me to progress?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oops. Parents back.
Dad's back.
And Dad.
And we have someone new to the room
I was
too.
gonna say, saw Jake came in. Jake, can you hear us?
Hi there. How's everybody? I'm
Good.
I'm not an MS guy. I'm just dropping in to see how everything's going. I like
It's
to keep my
good to have
fingers
you
in the
pop
pie
in.
with Ann can. Hey
No,
again, Dan.
it's good to have you here.
Oh, thank you. It's nice to hear. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How'd you hear about us, Jake?
Oh,
Uh,
What are you wearing, Jake?
I'm I'm intimately involved with Ann can, so I'm pretty well aware of the schedules, and
Okay,
I'm
okay.
I'm often involved with recording and
Ah,
posting
okay.
the videos. So,
Okay,
This,
so Rick knows you and Alexa
oh,
knows you
oh
and
yeah.
this
yeah, yeah.
this is one of the guys who makes sure that your recording gets up onto YouTube.
Thank you, Jake.
Excellent. We need people like that.
Yeah.
And and Jake, I got a question for you since you're here. Did you get any feedback on that rash?
Um, not from the doctor, but the office manager said, "Oh my goodness," and she said, "Of course she doesn't know what it was, but she said, looks like we might need to talk about a port." So
So are you gonna do chemo tomorrow or not?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Jake,
I'm going in anyway
I
to
have a
get my PSA. I need to get a PSA done. Whether she decides to do the chemo or not, I don't know.
Okay.
Well,
Go ahead.
it's
Jake.
a little after
Uh,
10. I just want to, I mean, I know we're going a little long, and I just wanted to make sure everybody, Anna, Mike, Kim, I mean, it's everything, or anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about.
No,
We're
I
all,
shared my insight.
That's good. No,
yeah.
I've learned a lot today.
What did you
I've
learn
learned,
today?
well, everything Kim was talking about with depression and hypomania. I'm blown away, and bipolar, and I want to research it more because I really sometimes feel like I have some of those hypomania things that you described, because you described how it felt for you briefly, and I was thinking that sounds like me, especially when I'm getting off of a depressive mood. That sounds like me.
Mm-hmm,
So I'm gonna look into it. I really am.
mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Reach out to me, Hannah, if you have any
Yeah.
questions or want to dive more into it. Just please let me know. I'm more than happy to talk, or because I'm like, oh, I get to research another disease state that's not MS. This is kind of fun.
Yay. No, I'm like you. I like to, every time something new comes my way, I'm like, okay, let's research this. I haven't, I have, I had wanted to research more about sleep apnea since I learned about the two different types,
Mhm.
central and obstructive. So I want to dive into that a little bit more. Now I got hypomania on my list. So thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say to you, Mike, that if you want to connect to any of these folks that are on the group, just let me know and I'll make sure that happens for you.
sure. All right.
With pleasure.
And Rick, I'll give you a call perhaps tomorrow or so.
Sure.
I missed your opening spiel on the 30th, although it's on my calendar. What I can expect and what I can bring and all that.
Okay. We'll be sending you, we'll be sending out that webinar again. I think we sent it out once already. So you probably have got it in your email.
I do have it. I
Yeah.
do have it.
So,
Mike,
but I'll
have you
talk to you about
registered
it
for it?
tomorrow.
No.
You need to register for it.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to register and get that wife of yours to register too, because I think she'll find it very interesting.
Okay.
Okay. And
Yep.
I shouldn't say this really, the moderator should say it, but we do. we have caregivers in this meeting or not? Do we invite caregivers to this meeting or do we not? I can't remember.
We don't uninvite them. No, everybody's welcome. I mean, yeah, totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
caregivers. I mean, I'm her caregiver, she's mine, so that at least takes care of two of us. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think no, yeah, well, because there was any time, absolutely, caregivers are totally welcome.
Yeah,
Right.
because
We had a woman a few weeks ago. Nancy was here, and she brought her husband. He popped in, and so yeah. I mean, Mike, if you would like your wife Vicky to ever join us on a meeting, there you're both more than welcome. And our next meeting is Holy Cats, if you can believe it. It's October 14th. 13th, excuse me, but I mean, we're gonna meet in October, and that's gonna be here before you know it. And then,
Right.
so I mean, then the event on September 30th is a family event just to talk about the conversations you had with your family about multiple sclerosis. And Dr. Aaron Boster will be there. He's going to offer some insights about talking with your family. And so that's on the 30th, which is next Wednesday.
Week from tomorrow, dude.
Week from tomorrow. So
Yep.
So is the conversation based on like questions from the audience that are listening, or is it something that's already set up with the questions they're going to ask?
Yes and yes.
It's more that like we have 4 different quote unquote like families, like a wife and her daughter, or a woman and her mother, a man with his family. So we have all these 4 different families, and they're going to talk about their experience and how their discussion with MS went. And then Dr. Boster will be there, and then the moderator will open it up for questions. And hopefully we'll have a good deal of questions and conversation that way.
How long do you think it's going to last?
It's scheduled for 90 minutes.
An hour and a half. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be 7:00 your time out there in Iowa. And
So 7 to 8:30. Okay.
yeah.
And
I mean, it'll go longer if there's lots of good questions.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be really interesting.
yeah, I
Me
hope
too.
so. So
Yeah, I'll send out another push for it with the San Antonio MS Society group and
Thank
see how many hits we get. So
thank you very
yeah.
much.
I know
Yeah.
Carrie sent it out to all the MS Moments group, so all my people I know have been already. Carrie did it all.
Because I was like, I don't know how many communications I had with Carrie on Saturday, just finalizing things, and she says, "Here, I'll send it to MS Moments and stuff." So
Yeah, we have a private group, and she sent it out, so everyone around here knows about it.
So you have to use the old trick that actually it was almost true for one of our webinars, which is that you tell them that almost all the places in the room have gone and they need to register quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
The fear of missing out, Rick. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so that's one trick we use. And if they ask, well, is it going to be recorded? You say, well, I'm not sure, but you need to register. If it is recorded, we'll be sending out the link afterwards. So make sure you register anyway. These are like little tricks we get. We actually did almost fill a room, and we made not for any of these, but for another webinar series we did. So we're actually using that.
What is your capacity? What's your max?
500.
Okay.
500. And we had 516 or 520 registrations, but we only had 330 people show up, so we were fine. But we've since had, maybe 700 people listen to the recording.
Wow, and see, that's what's so awesome about having a recording. If
Yeah,
people can't make it Wednesday night, they can listen to it after the fact.
yeah,
So that will be good. But yeah. So
yeah.
thanks for passing out information. And I know, Frank, you've been out there, telling people what's going on. So thank you. It should be a good event.
If it's not too late, we should probably stop the meeting, because if it's not too late, it would be great just to have a quick word with Dan, with the moderators. If you can, Frank, is that okay by you? Can you give us 10 minutes?
Sure.
Thank you. And Kim, is it okay by you, Miss Kim?
We're
Okay.
good.
And Jake, you're welcome, of course, to stay. Is that, whose dog is that? Stop beating the dog.
Not mine. Mine's asleep next to me.
I just have a cat in the room.
Somebody's got a dog there.
Which one?
I think somebody was
Cora.
waiting for a room.
She's in her usual spot.
All right.
Somebody, okay. So
Okay.
We stopped the recording.
Stop the recording in 3,
Yeah.
2, 1. Night, everybody.
okay.
Good night.
Bye-bye.